yesterday in our session, but I'm honored to be a part of this. I'm still just pinching myself about the opportunity to get involved in conservation and to meet so many amazing people from the department. And I really look forward to meeting the folks who are affected by the department and who are engaged in getting to know each of you as we move forward. So after the new year, I'm going to go on a road show, and I hope to meet so many of you.
Well, welcome, Ray. Appreciate it. Start the meeting. Madam Director, would you kick us off?
Okay, well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, those of you in the audience. We got a pretty full house here at headquarters and anyone online. So, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned it, but I've got a slide here too that also welcomes our newest member of the Missouri Conservation Commissioner, Mr. Ray Wagner. Commissioner Wagner is no new figure to the conservation world. He has been, and you can tell from these pictures, an avid outdoorsman all of his life. He most recently served as on the board of directors for the Missouri Conservation Heritage Foundation and is active with the Great River Habitat Alliance. He's also a lifetime member of the National Rifle Association, of Ducks Unlimited, and a member of Quail Forever and Pheasants Forever. We are so delighted to have Commissioner Wagner join this exceptional group of conservation leaders. As you are all very much aware, Missouri helps lead the nation in conservation, in large part due to the structure that we have in place by the people sitting here serving as members of an independent constitutional commission. So, Commissioner Wagner, we welcome you with great gratitude for your willingness to serve and with great appreciation for your personal zeal that I know that you'll bring to your new role. I tend to have a slide on just travel, and this last period of time, it's been a while, Commission, since we met last, so it's been another busy travel season from Chicago for the Midwest Landscape Initiative to Louisville, Kentucky for the Wildlife Society, to Calgary, Alberta, Canada for the annual meeting of the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. I so much appreciate the Commission's support of my efforts to represent Missouri Department of Conservation to conduct important conservation business, not only at the regional and national level, but sometimes at the international level as well. So thank you for your support in that regard. All right, we have so many staff awards to talk about that we need 2 slides for this one. First of all, we are so very proud of Andy Radeke for his selection to receive the Association of Fish and Wildlife's Ernest Thompson Seton Award. Andy was recognized for his truly exemplary and meaningful impact on wildlife and wetland conservation. Congratulations to Andy for this very prestigious national award. Also, a hearty congratulations to Pemiscot County Agent Brian Shelton for his recognition as Missouri's Officer of the Year at the Southeastern Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies Conference. Corporal Brian Shelton has served as a conservation agent for 12 years, and he certainly exemplifies a work ethic of public service, of teamwork, knowledge of the wildlife code, of course, quality reporting, community policing, and leadership. So congratulations to Brian, and thank you for your service. Also, a hearty congratulations to our education branch for recently being recognized by the Science Teachers of Missouri with their Champions of Science Award, a statewide recognition that is given to an individual business or organization that promotes and supports science education. This is a well-deserved honor for all of those in our agency who work hard every day to bring science education to Missouri's students. At this same award ceremony, our very own David Bruns, conservation educator in the St. Louis region, was awarded the Charles R. Granger Legacy Award for his history of promoting science education throughout his career and for making a substantial contribution to the science education community. Congratulations to these award winners as well. Finally, a congratulations to Mike Keeney for receiving the Society of American Foresters Presidential Field Forester Award for Region 9. This award recognizes foresters who have dedicated their professional careers to the application of forestry on the ground using sound scientific methods and adaptive management strategies. So my congratulations to you as well. You can just get a note from these last two slides, Commission, just what outstanding members we have within this agency. So congratulations to all of our award winners. All right, so look at these dedicated conservationists. This is a great picture of the most recent partnership we have with Capital Region Medical Center in the city of Jefferson to install a pollinator plot on the roundabout located on Stadium Boulevard right here in Jefferson City. This roundabout with a butterfly sculpture at the center of it was the perfect place for a partnership to plant 700 native plants. Without a good number of volunteers and partners, this project would not have been possible. So a special thank you to Cub Scout Pack 20 for their help planting the native plants, for All Seasons Lawn Care for providing the mulch, for Missouri Wildflower Nursery for providing the native plants, and for many of our staff here, and a special shout out to our own Deputy Director Aaron Jeffries for making all of this happen. Great project. So deputies and I once again had the privilege to join our exceptional staff in the field during our annual district field trips. On these field trips, district staff have the opportunity to show administration the work they are doing in the field, as well as to show us the challenges they face. And it's always a wonderful opportunity just to have one-on-one conversations with them as well. I just so appreciate the staff who have helped put these field trips together, and so look forward to continuing to engage with the field at the district level and beyond. Just as always, some of the best days I have are when they're out in the field. But speaking of districts, again, whether virtually or in person, deputies and I had the opportunity to join all of the district supervisors, or at least all of those who were attending, at their retreat at Mark Twain Lake in early October. And they gathered together to discuss a variety of important topics, including internal communications at the district supervisor level, support and training needs for all of our district supervisors, and of course, a discussion on performance management and annual work plans. So we were delighted to be part of that as well. Wow, look at this. These are fabulous pictures. With the fall temperatures and the season comes a lot of opportunities to take legislators to the field. Our own Jake Buxton has been very busy hosting legislators across the state at the annual catfish harvest at Chesapeake Hatchery, sturgeon tacking at Lost Valley Hatchery, hosting a conservation and natural resource retreat for the House Conservation and Natural Resource Committee, and many other opportunities to get legislators to the field. Staff in each region also hosted legislative open houses where all elected officials in that particular area were invited to a briefing and a social with regional leadership to hear conservation updates and ask any questions that they might have of that leadership. All of these efforts have led to hundreds of individual invites to MDC events and dozens of legislators taking to the field. As we approach yet another, I'm sure, busy legislative session, I just want to again extend my gratitude for the countless hours that our staff in the field have spent telling our story. These field trips are crucial to our continued success, and they certainly help us better advocate for fish, forest, and wildlife in the capital and far beyond. So as we enter the holiday seasons, many are still in pursuit of their game of choice. Others, of course, have already accomplished the mission, like this young man, who we might recognize a bit, who harvested a very nice buck during the early youth portion. We are in the midst of yet another successful Missouri deer season, and so I'm going to give you total figures for deer harvested in the year 2023. Commission, we are nearly to 300,000 deer harvested in this year, and we know we still have a bit yet to go. We've also seen the conclusion of another successful black bear season with 12 bears harvested. More than 5,300 hunters applied during May for the 400 permits that were available for the bear season, with a maximum total harvest being at 40. So of the 400 hunters selected through a random drawing, 342 hunters actually purchased the permits for the season. Finally, to date, there's been 1 elk taken during the archery portion. The remaining 4 will have the opportunity during the firearms portion that runs December 9 through 17. So mandatory sampling, I would like to personally thank the thousands of deer hunters who participated in the mandatory sampling efforts in 39 Missouri counties this fall to test for chronic wasting disease, and for the hundreds of MDC staff who gave up their opening weekend of firearms deer season to do their part to help us monitor for this disease. We collected tissue samples from more than 20,600 hunter-harvested deer. And I was pleased to have Commissioner McHenry with me on that Saturday as we visited several stations in North Missouri. I also want to thank Chairman Harrison and Commissioner Eckelkamp for also touring around and visiting with staff on that opening weekend with Deputy Director Jeffries. Also on that Sunday, had the opportunity to work as a recorder at 2 of the stations. Somehow I didn't kicked out. I'm not sure I was very helpful, but I certainly tried to be. Not only did I see some big deer come through those North Missouri stations, but it's always a wonderful opportunity just to visit with staff and members of the public. And so appreciate everyone's hospitality and for your dedicated service for all of our staff throughout the state. So with the cooler weather, our staff recently stocked rainbow trout in 37 of our community lakes across the state for thousands of anxious anglers. And here is one adorable angler, young Henry Shaw. He caught and released his very first trout in Moberly just a few weeks ago. For young Henry to travel to Bennett Spring with his family would be a 3.5-hour drive, but in Moberly, he was only a few minutes away from an MDC stock pond. I encourage everyone to take advantage of the nice weather and fish for trout at one of our winter trout fishing areas around the state. Have to get a slide in about Boone County Nature School. So I was excited to join some of our partners working so very hard to get the Boone County Nature School completed. And so just a few weeks ago, we had the opportunity to dedicate the council house. This will actually be an outdoor classroom. When the building itself with its 4 classrooms finally opens, and we're certainly hoping and on track to open it next summer, maybe even a ribbon cutting sooner than that, but the school will be an 8,000 square foot building intended for environment-based learning. There have already been many students impacted by this special piece of property, and I know there's many of us in this room that cannot wait to see the project finally and fully open. Speaking of openings, a ribbon cutting was held to celebrate the opening of a new shooting range complex in Southeast Region on October 23rd. This facility is a partner project between the department and the city of Campbell in Dunklin County. The department provided over $250,000 in cost share to help with the construction of the range in the part of the state where shooters were once more than an hour away from an MDC or another public shooting range. Features here include both rifle and pistol ranges, an archery range, a trap field, and a restroom. Team members from Education, Protection, and Regional Resource Management were in attendance for the ceremony. It's very exciting. So the 7th Annual Missouri Conservation Partners Roundtable, just a fantastic success. It was held October 11th and 12th in Springfield, Missouri. About 330 partners and staff gathered for this largest in-person roundtable ever. About 120 different partner organizations were in attendance. This year's theme was Sharing the Conservation Journey, where we received our welcome address from you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that. And heard from an exceptional keynote and plenary panel on that Wednesday. We then held breakout sessions centered around partner feedback on Thursday. For those who would like to view or share messages from our keynote and plenary, the recordings have been posted to our MDC Roundtable webpage. Pictured here are our student, yeah, that is not the picture. There we go. Pictured here are our Student Leadership Workshop attendees. So 37 students from across Missouri joined us to meet with current MDC staff and partners to hear about all the possible career paths ahead for them. The robust conversation spirited many of the students attending the roundtable to provide bold ideas and unique perspectives. And so, of course, To Jess and her team, thank you for all you did to help make this such a success, and so many in this room and beyond. We've already started planning for the 2024 roundtable. I think we got a week off, but we hope to see everyone there. Now we go to this one. So, it was an honor to share in a special evening honoring many outstanding conservationists. I was able to present the department's partner awards to some very worthy recipients. So we awarded the Conservation Impact Award to the Ozark Regional Land Trust, our Ozark Land Trust. The Conservation Intersection Award went to the Ferguson-Florissant School District, and the Conservation Innovation Award went to Aerial Services and NV5 Geospatial. But perhaps the greatest honor of the evening for me was helping to present the distinctive Missouri Legacy Conservation Award to Mr. Ken Babcock. Ken has been a strong and steady leader who has been instrumental in aiding the Missouri model of conservation. Ken worked for the Missouri Department of Conservation from 1970 through 1997. He worked as a waterfowl research biologist, assistant chief and division chief for the Wildlife Division, and assistant director from 1989 through 1997. After retiring from MDC, Ken went on to work for Ducks Unlimited, retiring in 2013 as the senior director of conservation. He had quite a fall because then again on October the 14th, he was honored by Ducks Unlimited and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service by naming a newly renovated wetland pool at Swan Lake National Wildlife Refuge after Mr. Babcock. Also in attendance at that event were Commissioners Emeritus Jeff Sharan, Chip McGeehan, Jim Blair, and new Commissioner Ray Wagner. So many of us who know him, Ken is an inspirational leader that continues to drive us all to do our best work for Missouri's fish forest and wildlife resources. So a very special congrats to Mr. Babcock. So on Tuesday, October 3rd, the 2023 Conservation Agent class graduated from the Training Academy. 16 new agents spent the past 6 months housed at the Highway Patrol Academy here in Jeff City. They received more than 1,200 hours of intense instruction, both in and out of the classroom throughout the state. So they received, among many of the topics that received training in, included criminal investigations, defensive tactics, firearm qualifications, technical instruction in fish, forest, and wildlife, of course, the Wildlife Code. So that included studies in legal education, communications, and conducting education programs, first aid, first responder, CPR, and many other things. The new agents were assigned their counties already, and they began 6 weeks of in-field training operations and special assignments under the supervision of veteran agents. So we're very excited to have our newest agents in the field. Welcome aboard. MDC Leads is a 10-month leadership development opportunity to continue to grow leaders within the agency. And so this year's cohort consists of 24 employees from across the regions and the branches. During monthly get-togethers, this year's cohort will be exposed to a wide range of topics, including but not limited to how this agency functions, skills to better communicate, how to work with one another, discussions with current agency leaders, problem-solving skills, and of course, as we do with all the MDC Leads teams, we take them on an urban tour led by, this time, the Kansas City Community Conservation Team. Additionally, each cohort will be broken into 3 smaller groups and given a capstone project of a critical issue or problem that's facing the agency, and then they'll present their solutions to expanded leadership during their graduation in June. So excited to have this next cohort aboard. So members of the commission, as you are so very well aware, we have many infrastructure projects in the field that are in process, and timelines often get delayed for various reasons, but Mother Nature, she sure tends to take the cake in that regard. We're seeing a prime example here of the difficulty of our infrastructure staff experience here at the Shell Osage Pump Station Replacement Project. So the picture on the left was captured on October 24th. The contractor was at that time making very good progress. The picture on the right was taken just 3 or 4 days later after a rainy weekend. There was no significant damage, but the contractor then had to take the time, of course, to remove the debris, wait for the water to recede, remove the siltation before they could resume work on the infrastructure. So it's just a reminder for me to say an extra special thanks to our amazing infrastructure management staff who work in sometimes less than ideal conditions to deliver to the public a work product that helps connect our public to nature. So Jay Gebba, thank you to you and your team. All right, MONASP has reached its 1,000th, that's right, 1,000 schools that have adopted the National Archery in the Schools program into its curriculum. On September 29th, the department celebrated with Greenwood Laboratory School at a very special assembly. The department presented a plaque to the school's archery team for being Missouri's 1,000th school. NASP is a nationwide in-school program aimed at improving educational performance among students in grades 4 through 12. Students learn focus, self-control, discipline, patience, and life lessons required to be successful in the classroom and in life. And Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I forgot my notes in history, and so Aaron reminded me that the one I will include is 2 years ago today. Deputy Director Jeffries and I were in the halls of the U.S. Senate testifying for Recovering America's Wildlife Act. We have not given up hope. We continue to work to see if some version of Recovering might pass. We thank you, Commissioner Wagner, for taking a trip with us recently to Washington, D.C. to meet with key leaders on the House side. And so our work continues in that regard. With that, Mr. Chairman, unless there are any questions, that is my report.
Well, there is one question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You forgot the history note?
Forgive me for that. Shame on me.
I think you forgot something else also.
Oh,
And, Sarah, one of your many
you guys are tricky.
is your humbleness and the things and your own accomplishments. And I just want to read a couple of things here. Most recently, Sarah was the recipient of the Seth Gordon Award. That was on September 26th. The Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies recognized Sarah Parker-Pauley as with AWA's top honor, the Seth Gordon Award, for lifetime achievement in conserving North America's natural resources and the public trust and contributing to the programs of the association. And this is just from the Associated Press release on this. It says, Sarah Parker-Pauley's service to the association is exceptional through her active engagement in various affairs of the association. She serves as chair of the Wildlife Diversity Conservation and Funding Committee, served in many roles as an officer on the executive committee, including a term as the first female president of the association. And we're all very proud to have you as our director, and
Thank you.
can't thank you enough for all you do for us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Well done, Sarah.
Mr. Chairman, may I add one other recognition about Sarah that she neglected? I had the pleasure of attending a lunch at the University of Missouri where Sarah was inducted into the Mizzou Hall of Fame. A very distinguished group of individuals that are recognized by Mizzou, and it was a fabulous afternoon. So one of three, I think, people, very distinguished other individuals, but Sarah was at the top of the list. It was a pleasure to be there.
Excellent.
Well done.
Next, thank you. Next on the agenda, Aaron, would you introduce our next speaker, please?
Good morning, Commissioners. I have the pleasure of presenting our next presenter, Eric Edwards. Eric has been with the department 22 years. Started off at the August Busch shooting range in February of 2001, excuse me. Interestingly, he has been the supervisor at 3 of our staff ranges, which I don't know if anyone's held that before, but he's been at Parma, Hinges, as well as Busch. And he was recently promoted to our hunter and angler marketing specialist, or HAMS as we like to call him. And Eric has a passion for the outdoors, lives over in the Herman area. He's the assistant softball coach for the girls' team there, but spends a lot of time managing his property for wildlife, hunting and fishing. And Eric's going to give us a presentation on the department's R3 plan. So, Eric?
Thank you, Aaron. Good morning, Commissioners, Director Polly. Thank you for the opportunity to come here this morning and provide some brief updates on the department's R3 recruitment, retention, and reactivation efforts of hunters, anglers, recreational shooters, and trappers. Before I begin discussing our current efforts, I think it's very important to notice and recognize that the department has long been involved in R3 efforts before we knew them as R3. Due to our dedicated funding, MDC was able to build one of the first and most robust enhanced hunter ed programs through our staff shooting ranges and other facilities through our staff. Many people have been able to go through our Learn to Hunt, Learn to Shoot, Learn to Fish programs. MDC has been very active in engaging hunters and anglers and recreational shooters for a long, long time. As we well know, and through the agency reorganization, a relevancy branch was created in 2020, and with it, my position as hunter and angler marketing specialist. One of the priorities when I came into this position is to create an interagency R3 working group with representatives from across the department. Much of this group's first efforts were put into creating an agency-wide 5-year R3 plan to lay the foundation of goals the agency needed to reach in order to maintain or increase participation in hunting and shooting, fishing, and trapping activities. To create this plan, we needed to see participation trends as well as other metrics to decide what our goals are. So the first thing we looked at was what are the participation rates for Missouri residents in hunting and fishing over the last several years. This graph here shows every odd fiscal year from FY13 to FY23, showing participation rates for both hunting and fishing, again, of Missouri residents. As we'll notice from FY13 to FY19, a pretty significant decline in participation in those numbers. That light blue graph or bar there, FY21, we see a pretty good jump in participation. Again, at that time, we were dealing with a worldwide health pandemic. Many of our day-to-day lives changed significantly, and many people chose to go out and recreate, and so we got a good boost in numbers there. As we see FY23 dropped off a little bit from those FY21 numbers, the optimistic view that I like to look at this is that those FY23 numbers are still well above pre-pandemic numbers. We were able to retain some of that COVID cohort that we got in FY21. But again, from FY13 to FY23, we lost over 121,000 resident hunters and anglers in the state of Missouri. Next thing we wanted to look at were these trends similar between fishing and hunting. So here we have resident anglers in the state of Missouri. Again, we can see that there was more steady, slower decline here in angling activities. Again, we got that bump in FY21 and able to hang on to much of that COVID cohort, again, when it comes to the angling side for FY23. However, when we look at hunting participation, unfortunately, we don't see that big bump in the COVID cohort, right? FY13 to FY23, over 72,000 fewer hunters in the state of Missouri. I think a lot of times when people know and understand that we're losing hunters, they often think of small game hunting. People don't quail hunt or rabbit hunt or squirrel hunt as much as they used to, and that is true. But when we look specifically at our most popular hunting activity here in the state of Missouri, firearms deer hunting, we see a trend of decline. Again, to look at these numbers, if you look at FY21 or FY23 compared to FY21, it seems to be slowing a bit. And I just looked at the numbers yesterday for FY24, our current fiscal year, and we're above FY23 numbers. So that gives me promise that perhaps this trend is reversing, at least for firearms deer hunting. But again, over a 10-year time span, we've lost about 58,000 firearms deer hunters in the state of Missouri. One of the other things we needed to look at was what is the public's perception on hunting and fishing, right? And several of us have probably seen this slide before, and it's been pointed out more than once to me that, 49% of the residents in this survey are not interested at all in hunting. But I'm looking at the other side of that graph where 37% are very or somewhat interested in hunting. right? We'd probably have to go back 100 years before we had 37% participation from Missouri residents in hunting. Right now, we're less than 6%. So to me, this tells me that there is opportunity for us to create new hunters and anglers. We just haven't reached those folks yet. And one of the last things we looked at is, where do we need to focus our efforts? Where are our customers at right now? So this map shows permit purchases in FY21 or permit year 21. And as you can see, our customers predominantly are coming from our more urban areas: St. Louis, Kansas City, Columbia, Springfield, Joplin. So as a group, we decided, what's realistic, what can we do? Our goal is to try to reach, when we were working on this, it was in FY22. The most recent numbers, complete numbers we had was FY21. So what do we have to do and able to maintain FY21 numbers to break even each year? Our first goal is recruitment. We need to recruit 740,000 new permit holders, resident permit holders, by June 30th, 2027. Annually, we need to recruit 100,000 new anglers and 48,000 new hunters. Our second goal is our retention, our churn rate. If you bought a permit in 2022, but you did not buy one in 2023, you've churned. Our churn rate is about 30%. We need to reduce that by 5% to get down to 25% by June 30th, 2027. And again, you can see the churn rate for fishing is higher than hunting. If we reduce each one by 1% each year, we're going to get down to about a 33% churn rate on fishing and 16.5% churn rate on hunting. Our last goal is reactivation. By 2027, we need to reactivate 500,000 lapsed hunters and anglers, so 100,000 a year. Again, this becomes more and more challenging as newer generations become much more episodic in their permit buying history. Older generations were much more steady. When they bought a permit, they continually bought that permit for years. So one of the projects that we worked on, it actually started before we got the R3 working group going, but we partnered with DJ Case and Associates. And we looked at where we need to recruit from is young adults who predominantly did not hunt and fish as youth. That is where our biggest pool of people sit at. So we asked DJ Case and Associates to find these people that are new to hunting and fishing. They predominantly did not hunt and fish as youth. They have less than 5 years of permit buying history. What do they look like? Who are they? Where do they come from? What other hobbies do they have? Whatever other interests? And what motivated them to get into hunting and fishing? So DJ Case and Associates came back and said, whether it's hunting or fishing, they basically fit into one of these three personas. They're either recreationalists, family first, or self-sufficients. Recreationists get out there because it's a hobby. They enjoy being outdoors. It's something to do. And we see the numbers are close to even there. Hunting is 44%, fishing at 32%. But our family first, we see the numbers are pretty different, and that was kind of an eye-opener for me, especially on hunting. 53% of the people get into fishing because of somebody in their family got them into it, where only 17% got into hunting because of family. And then lastly, our self-sufficients. Again, they want to learn a new skill and have that knowledge to be able to provide for themselves. Fishing is at 10% and hunting is at 33%. I think this makes some sense. Obviously, we can catch and release fishing. There's no catch and release hunting, right? So self-sufficients see a little bit different split. When we created these personas for marketing purposes, I wanted to put a name to each one of these. So our first group was Ricky the recreationalist, right? And not only did we want to know what motivated them to get into hunting or fishing, but what are their biggest barriers? What do they have problems with? Because a lot of work in R3, I believe, is either reducing or eliminating barriers, finding out if these barriers are real or perceived. So we asked them, what was your biggest hurdle? And for Ricky the recreationalist, and these are in order, the first one was knowing the regulations, knowing what the seasons were, knowing what permits they needed. When we looked at our next group, Fernanda family, same thing. What are the regulations? What are the seasons? What are the dates? What permits do I need to have? And then finally, Sammy, our self-sufficients, knowing the regulations, knowing what permits they needed, knowing when the seasons were. So our next project, we partnered with Lambert out of St. Louis, Missouri, and asked them to do some focus and survey groups and find out where can we improve, how can we help people better understand our regulations. So Lambert worked with kind of two sets of people, one set that was provided by the department, again, younger adults that did not have a robust history of buying permits, and another group that Lambert went out and recruited on their own online. Predominantly, that group had no hunting and fishing experience, no experience with the wildlife code. If we look, this slide shows a representation of where respondents from those focus groups and surveys came from, so a good representation from not only our urban and rural areas, you know, mostly along the I-70 belt there, but we wanted to understand, too, how people are receiving their information, and is that different? Is it different in rural Missouri compared to more urban metropolitan Missouri? The good news is that overall, we realize hunting regulations were not a major barrier, but they are part of a barrier to participation. What we really found out from the survey is that people knew where to find our regulations. Maybe most importantly, they understood why we have regulations. But what we really understood is they needed that confidence booster. Again, when we look at hunting, people do not have, they're taking this on their own. They don't have a mentor to feed them that knowledge, to reassure them the way they're reading and interpreting this rule and regulation is the right way to read and interpret this regulation. So, next steps, we've already convened another group with Science Branch, Protection Branch, Relevancy, and Communication to go through our regulations and look and see where's there some room at that we can make some improvements at. One of the big things that came out of our first meeting is that we really need a decision tree to help with communications from all staff. You can imagine if somebody calls up here to the front desk and says, I'm brand new, I want to go hunting, what do I do? Right? Those answers are infinite, and depending on who you ask, could vary greatly. So we need that decision tree of what happens first, second, third, fourth, so on and so forth. The other project that really is just kicking off right now, as I mentioned earlier, MDC has been able to do hunting, fishing, shooting programs for thousands of people for decades. What we need to do is figure out, are those programs yielding benefits for us? Are we providing to the citizens of the state what they really need? Are we creating hunters and anglers after they come to our programs? Are we not? Are we delivering in the right format? Is coming to an evening class and have a live instructor in front of you the right format? Do we need to move to more online format educational learning? So, with that, Commission, that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Comment?
Yeah, good job, Eric. I do
you.
appreciate it. And I'm looking at your goal number 3. You're looking at 500,000 permit holders by 2027.
Yes, sir.
So we're looking, you know, 3, almost 4 years down the road, and 100,000 per year on the average. So if you look at that way, do you have a benchmark in that? I mean, obviously your goal by 27 is 500. I mean, are you looking at another 100,000 for next year or something like that? Is that kind of what I interpret it?
Yes, sir. We're looking at 100,000 a year.
Okay.
So far, for the last couple of years, we've been able to exceed that mark. So our goal 2 and goal 3, we're exceeding those marks.
And then, of course, you're working with Jessica, I assume, on
Yes.
all this. You know, she's our relevancy branch chief, and then, of course, you're from the marketing, kind of get the word out perspective. So you correlate together, I assume, in all this and relationship.
Absolutely.
too,
Jess,
so.
Jess is my supervisor. Yes,
Right.
sir.
And then I also will applaud, oh, she's a supervisor. Okay, I
Yeah.
can realize that. Okay, all right, good.
I talk
Good.
to her when I have to.
Okay, I'll take that as a response in a positive way.
Absolutely.
And then I do applaud the department for looking at relevancy, too. I mean, obviously, relevancy goes beyond this, but I think the whole R3 program is important, too. So anyway, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Can I?
Any other questions?
Just one. Eric, great presentation.
Thank you.
I really applaud the multidiscipline approach that you guys are doing and working across all the different teams. So proud. Also, as the director mentioned, the awards that our education team received. So we as a commission, we hear a lot about the upcoming project and actually ongoing project of the customer experience work that we're doing on the data side. And I look at your goals and they are ambitious and realistic, but I'm wondering how hard is it for you in our current systems to help identify the populations that you do want to target when it comes to reactivation? Just for our knowledge, a little bit about the work that you guys have to do today.
Sure. I think for me, it's probably a little bit easier through our vendor that does our permits, our event management system for people that sign up on our programs. They've also created a marketing platform. So I'm able to pull from from our permits, from our event platform, and be able to get to those people. Again, there's tons of research out there. Missouri is not unfortunately, the only state going through these major R3 efforts. And so there's lots of collaboration from across the nation to be able to identify and hone in and key in on where can we make our marks at. So for me, I have a robust set of data and tools at my fingertips.
Good. Thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Chairman, I might just add that, first of all, I greatly appreciated the presentation. And to me, this is so critically important, understanding the code. I mean, to the average citizen, it's a small book, but it's confusing at first blush. And creating these classes, collecting the data, learning whether it's online programs or in-person programs. I've done in-person programs, and they're incredibly helpful, but it's a bit overwhelming. So facing this and tackling it is really the right thing to do, and it will yield results. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. And starting that, does any of the commissioners have anything on the consent calendar they would like to pull from it?
No.
If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Okay. Jason, congratulations. You have the longest time period allocated, as usual.
Don't have to use it.
As we mentioned yesterday, Commissioner Wagner will grow to appreciate the length of my presentation, but we will try to move it along expeditiously. So, good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and Director Pauly. You may recall during the September Commission meeting, the Commission voted to approve recommendations for the mid-year review of the Wildlife Code that resulted in the following: adding 2 crayfish species and 1 mussel species to the state endangered species list, allow the use of electronically activated calls for hunting waterfowl and coots, allow pets on leashes on trails at Cape Girardeau Nature Center, allow bicycle use year-round on 5 additional conservation areas, and clarify that bicycles and horseback riding are allowed outside of shooting hours during the spring turkey season on 31 areas, and make adjustments to regulations for areas owned by other entities due to the Community Assistance Program agreements. Following the Commission's initial consideration, these proposed rulemakings were filed with the Secretary of State's office and published in the Register, which initiated a 30-day public comment period. A summary of the 6 comments received, along with staff's responses, are included in the final orders of rulemaking, provided in Commission packet. This presentation of the orders of rulemaking as a formal Commission action item signifies the final step in the Department's regulation process. The Commission has authority to adopt, as originally written, amend, or withdraw the proposed regulations. If approved today, these changes will be effective February 29th, 2024. Mr. Chairman, unless the Commission has questions or concerns, I request approval for these 7 orders of rulemaking with no changes to the original recommendation.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll move on to my formal report. The Regulations Committee met on November 1st to review recommendations to establish season dates for each portion of the 2024-25 firearms deer hunting season and proposed rulemaking related to the Deer Management Assistance Program. Along with these recommendations to establish season dates and limits, hunting regulations on conservation areas, and managed hunts for the 24 spring turkey hunting season. Mr. Chairman, the first action item for Commission consideration pertains to the Missouri's 2024-2025 deer season. As a reminder, the final recommendations for regulations related to the 24-25 deer season will be submitted to the Commission next spring. However, establishing the structure now provides additional information for those who must make early projections for annual leave. Proposed dates for the 24-25 deer season are as follows: the early antlerless portion, October 11 through 13, early youth portion, November 2nd through the 3rd, the November portion, November 16 through the 26th, CWD portion, November 27 through December 1st, the late youth portion, November 29 through December 1st, the late antlerless portion, December 7th through the 15th, and the alternative methods portion from December 28th through January 7th of 2025. Mr. Chairman, I request Commission approval for recommendations to establish season dates for the portion of the 24-25 fall firearms deer hunting season as described.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next action item is in the form of a proposed amendment to the Deer Management Assistance Program. If approved, the proposed changes presented today will be filed with the Secretary of State's office for publication in the Missouri Register, which will initiate the formal 30-day public comment period. Comments received on specific proposals will be compiled and presented as part of the final order of rulemaking for commission consideration at your February meeting. The anticipated effective date of these proposed rulemakings would be May 30th of 2024. You will recall the Department's private lands deer biologist, Kevin Wiskirchen, gave a presentation on DMAP at your September meeting. DMAP was created to assist landowners with meeting local deer management objectives by providing additional antlerless harvest opportunities. The program was piloted in 2019 in 7 counties and has since been expanded statewide. Throughout the program's first 4 years, feedback from department staff and program participants has been mostly positive, though some aspects of the program have been identified with opportunities for improvement. The first set of recommendations is to allow DMAP permits to be valid during the archery deer hunting season using archery methods. The removal of the non-resident managed deer hunting permit as an acceptable prerequisite for non-resident DMAP permits. Requests have been made to expand the utility of these permits to include archery deer season in addition to firearms season, which would provide greater flexibility for the use of these permits at any time during the deer season and reduce potential confusion about when the permits can be filled. In connection with the recommendation to allow DMAP permits to be used for both firearms and archery season, a recommendation is also being made to remove the non-resident managed deer hunting permit as an acceptable prerequisite for purchase of non-resident DMAP permits. The non-resident managed deer hunting permit was initially listed as an acceptable prerequisite when DMAP permits could only be used during the firearms deer season. This change would maintain consistency with the list of acceptable prerequisites for CWD management permits, which, like DMAP, can be used during both the firearms and archery deer seasons. The last recommendation related to DMAP is to reduce the minimum acreage for enrollment from 500 acres to 250 acres if enrolling in a rural area, and 40 acres to 25 acres if enrolling in a municipal boundary. The current acreage threshold was established to encourage deer management at a spatial scale that would have a meaningful impact on local deer populations. Feedback from the public and department staff indicates that lowering the threshold will allow a greater number of landowners to enroll while still emphasizing the need for landscape scale deer management. Mr. Chairman, I request approval of proposed amendments to 3 CSR 10-5.222 youth pricing deer and turkey permits, 10-5.600 resident firearms deer management assistance program permits, 10-5.605 non-resident firearms deer hunting assistance program permits, 10-7.433 deer firearms hunting seasons, and 10-7.600 deer management assistance programs as described.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The last set of action items relates to the 2024 spring and fall turkey seasons. Here today to provide these recommendations is scientist Nick Oakley. Nick has worked for the department since the summer of 2019. He currently serves as the wild turkey and ruffed grouse biologist, where he oversees several ongoing research projects and provides regulation recommendations. Nick holds a bachelor's degree in forestry, fisheries, and wildlife biology from the University of Missouri and a master's degree from the University of Wyoming. Prior to joining the department, Nick spent several years in the western U.S. working on a variety of ecology and conservation-related projects. Nick?
Yeah, thanks, Commission, Director, Deputy Directors, everyone in attendance. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with the notion of, you're in a group with people, like, there's just decades and decades of turkey biologists experience in the crowd, so I'll take comments after, if that's all right. But with that, I got a lot to cover, so we'll just jump right in. So what I'm gonna do today is just give a quick kind of population status update, give you kind of a sense for where things are. Talk a little bit about the decline in participation in turkey hunting. Of course, Eric did a very, very thorough job, so I'll just touch on it real briefly. And then as it relates to the recommendations I'm going to give for our spring and fall season, I'm going to talk a little bit about our current regulatory structure, kind of how it fits in with states in our region, talk a little bit about the input we got from kind of the recommendation process, and then give my formal recommendations, and then give you a little more information about kind of what went through my head as I was thinking about this, so that we can all go on that journey together. So first up, we'll talk a little bit about production. Production is a way that we essentially measure hatch quality. It's an index of hatch quality, essentially. That's the way I like to think of it. Right, and we measure that as poults per hen. We collect those data in our spring brood survey. Over the last, 60 years, since 1959, we've seen kind of what I think of as 3 phases of production. As we're starting to move birds around the state, our production's starting to grow, right, as turkeys are finding their spot, the population's small but starting to build. Then we hit a period of real high sustained production, and that's as the population's really starting to ramp up. Birds are colonizing new areas, things are going really well. After that, we start to see some decline. Some of that's predictable based on just, as we approach carrying capacity, of course, we can't be producing as many poults as we were when the population was half as large. But nevertheless, this is a figure that a lot of people see, and it gives them pause, right? Things are going the wrong direction. Some of that's founded, some of that's kind of expected based on the ecology of the bird. Happily, 2023 was quite a good year for production in Missouri relative to years past. You'll note that the 7 years before 2023 were rather poor production based on our statewide index. So these averages certainly or these percentages here are certainly impacted by that, right? So we're comparing this year to some rather poor years, but nevertheless, a good year for production in Missouri. And what I really like, and I included this map at the top, is that our production was really widespread. So there weren't regions of real high production and regions of real low production. That production was spread out across the state. A lot of that's probably attributed to the drought conditions we had. It was a good time of year, or a good season to be a turkey poult this year. But nevertheless, very good news. And I think with the impending cicada hatch next year, I think we're going to start to string a few good years in a row, which is good news. Harvest is another thing we keep a close eye on when we're thinking about, the state of the turkey population. Again, this is a figure that a lot of folks have seen, and it's just measuring our turkey harvest on an annual basis at the statewide scale. Now, a lot of things changed between 1960 and 2023 as far as the regulations, but nevertheless, it shows the real rapid growth, right, from 94 turkeys to about 60,000 in 2004 harvested. So that's pretty impressive. This last spring season was another good one for us. So we harvested about 44,500 turkeys compared to that 5-year average. We're up almost 20%. Even going back 10 years, we're still up relative to that. So that's great news. What I do want to note, and Eric touched on this, is this increase in harvest isn't necessarily connected to an increase in turkey hunters, right? We're harvesting more turkeys than we have in the recent past with fewer and fewer turkey hunters, right? I don't know that that's super germane, other than just to point out that, I think this is a sign, as an indication that turkey population is doing better than maybe we think, just based on the pure decline in harvest. We're still shooting quite a few turkeys. And in fact, if we look at hunter harvest and we correct that for effort, and the way we do that is by estimating the number of trips hunters take, and then the harvest per number of trips. We've seen it's actually been relatively stable since about 2006, 2007. In this last year, we kind of once again hit that 90 birds per 1,000 trips level, which would have actually been higher than kind of that average since 1998, the last time significant turkey regs change went into place. I got some comments from staff and certainly from the public wondering if this is just an indication that we're being more efficient at turkey hunting, right? So the example that was given to me is, I used to shoot 1 or 2 birds out of 10, now I'm shooting 1 or 2 out of 4, right? Is this just kind of masking a deeper problem, essentially, that with new technology, new tactics, we're actually over-harvesting? And I don't believe that to be the case. So the research we're doing now as it relates to harvest rate, which is kind of looking at the number of birds harvested as a percentage of the population, we've only seen that maybe move up a point or 2 even since when Dr. Van Gelder was doing his work in the 80s. So things haven't changed a whole lot in that regard. Now, fall is kind of a different story. So the lines here, the bottom line in blue is our total fall harvest. The green line is our fall firearms permit sales, and then the red line is our archery permit sales. And you can see that that blue line has dipped down pretty significantly. In fact, around 85% since the peak. So in 1987, we harvested almost 29,000 turkeys in the fall season. In 2022, we harvested around 4,100. So that's a pretty significant decline. I think this is almost entirely driven by a decline in interest in the fall season, to be frank. I don't know that this is necessarily an indication that the turkey population has declined that much. I think this is really just the red line probably explains it. There's just more folks focused on archery hunting, and whether or not that includes turkeys kind of depends on if a turkey comes by, would be my guess. Happily this year, and I think it's an indication, again, that we had a pretty decent hatch in 2023. We saw our fall firearms harvest tick up again. It's a 30% increase, which is like a big number, but that's about 500 total birds compared to the 2022 fall firearms harvest. We certainly don't have the archery numbers in yet, but I would imagine, they're going to be up as well, just because there are more turkeys on the landscape this year than there have been in years past. So that's my update. You're probably asking, why are we considering a change? I don't know that it's any surprise that we're considering a change. And it goes right kind of to, the primary reason really goes to what Eric mentioned, right? We're seeing declines in participation across the board. This is specific to turkey hunters that are residents during the spring season in the years or 2017 to 2023. Eric, of course, was generous enough to shoot me this figure. I did not come up with this. And you can see, especially as it relates to participation, right, we're 13% decline, recruitment 15% decline. But then when you look at the figure, right, 2020 really sticks out as a peak, right? So whenever we remove a barrier to opportunity, right, we allow folks to get out at times where perhaps they were busy otherwise, we see a response, right? And that's kind of the takeaway from this figure. Certainly we've seen declines, but if we give folks the opportunity to get out in the field, I'm inclined to believe that they're gonna take advantage of that, which is good for all of us. Okay. Talking super fast, as usual. So I wanted to sort of couch Missouri, put Missouri into context with other states around us. So I'm comparing Missouri in this to the SIAFWA and MAFWA states, the Southeast and Midwestern states. There's about 26 of them. There's 26 of them, so it's a big sample. But as far as it relates to the spring season, right, and when we think about where we can make a change to a regulation to increase opportunity, there's only a couple of options, right? The bag limit, if we were to increase the bag limit, not really going to increase our opportunity in such a way as to get new hunters, right? They already can hunt. Adding to the bag limit, not going to help. Start date, I'm real comfortable with the start date as it relates to the biology of the turkey. I'm not interested in moving the start date up at this time. And we know that a majority of our harvest is done in the first week, so adding a week to the end of the season, I don't know that that's a meaningful increase in opportunity. Season length, again, sort of the same thing. We can add to the season. I'm not sure that it gets us much in terms of additional opportunity for our users. So that kind of leaves us with all-day hunting, right? And Missouri is one of a couple of states in our region that doesn't have all-day hunting. So 24 of the 26 states do allow it. Illinois is the other state that doesn't allow all-day hunting at the moment. So generally, Missouri is more conservative. And, as I see it, that's kind of the low-hanging fruit, if you will, in terms of increasing opportunity. So we wanted to get some input. So what we did to kind of get a sense for what Missouri turkey hunters were thinking about this or had as far as an opinion about their support for it, we had three options. So a random subsample of turkey hunters got a survey in the mail or in their email, and maybe I'm naive, but I was hoping for a higher response rate than 12%. I think that's pretty standard. I was like, turkey hunters are so passionate, they're gonna come, 12%, but still 1,500 responses. We can work with that. We also had a public comment option where anyone who had any interest in pretty much anything related to the spring woods could come and comment. Got several folks interested in deer regulations on that as well, so we passed those along. And then staff had an opportunity to provide some input as well. The staff input focused more on how a regs change would impact your work objectives, but nevertheless, they had a chance to weigh in. Citizens were informed a variety of ways on the information we're trying to give Sent out a lot of email reminders. I did a Facebook Live, which made me sweaty. Lot of press releases, all kinds of things to try and get folks aware of. If they weren't aware, we want to make them aware, right? Let's get that response rate up. And then we also developed a fair bit of literature and things like that to hopefully give folks information so that they can make an informed decision and not base it just off of something that their uncle told them. So the first question we asked was what prevents you from hunting? And it was interesting to see Eric's information, because ours is slightly different, and maybe it's just the way we asked the question. In fact, I'm sure that's probably a big part of it. But the number one barrier for folks that we surveyed, and this would be from the turkey hunters, was that work and/or school schedule was a barrier to participation. That's what keeps them out of the turkey woods. I don't think that's a surprise. We close the season at 1 p.m. If you go to school and you go to church, that means you get to hunt on Saturdays, right? Nothing keeps me from turkey hunting was the number 2, and the subtext I think there is, and how dare you even suggest otherwise? So I appreciated that. I enjoyed that response a lot. And then the number 3 was there's not enough turkeys where I hunt. And certainly that's something I hear from folks, right? The turkey population's declined. That's a problem for us. So I wanted to look at those top 3 and break it out into kind of some groups, right? So we've got, I called it enthusiasm. I'm not sure if that's the right term. But we had avid versus casual hunters. An avid hunter is someone who's purchased a permit in 4 of the last 5 years, at least 4 of the last 5 years. And then hunter age is less than 30 or greater than 30, essentially. And again, kind of to no surprise, at least to me, I think, our youth hunters, that group that's less than 30, work indoor school schedule was a big barrier for all of those, or half of them, I suppose. The people who are inclined to say there's not enough turkeys or nothing keeps me from turkey hunting tended to be our older or more avid hunters. Again, I think that makes some good sense. So, this type of information sort of reinforces what we sort of thought going into it. Now, sort of the options we presented with folks to look at, and this is obviously a ton of text, so please don't read it all. The bold quotations at the top kind of give the summary, right? So option 1 would have been our current regulatory structure, close at 1 p.m. For a 3-day season. Option 2 was close at 1 p.m. for the first week, open all day for the second 2 weeks, open all 3 weeks. And then option 4 was a little bit of a divergence. I was curious what folks thought about the legal bearded hen harvest in the spring, whether they were in favor of continuing to allow it, or if they thought that we should remove that exemption. So the survey takers were presented each of these options individually on a page and given the following, strongly opposed through strongly support options to, rate their support or opposition. The public comment just got the block of those 4 and then a comment box below it to kind of weigh in. So slightly different collection method. And the response was a little muddy, I think. I don't know that there's a clear, strong majority promoting one thing or the other, right? When we're talking about a sample size of 1,500, there are some issues with error on that estimate, if you will. So I don't know that any one of these, the top 3, really stood out as for sure the one that's pulling away. Obviously, if you just look at the raw percentages, slightly more folks may have been interested in maintaining the current regulatory system, but 3 percentage points, difference in support for all day, for the duration of the season. I'm not sure that that's a big enough difference that we could say there's a statistical difference. We break it out by support group, or by those groups I mentioned earlier, and maybe if you squint, you see slightly more support for some of the younger hunters to be all day for all 3 weeks. Again, I think it's a little muddy. I'm not prepared to use these statistics as like this is absolutely the reason we do this, but I think it does point to the fact that there's not strong opposition to going all day, which was something that I don't know if I was anticipating, but I was interested to see. Now, the legal hen harvest question was a bit of a surprise to me. Most of the people I talked to are opposed to harvesting hens under any circumstance. Admittedly, I get kind of the super avid turkey hunters. But it didn't really have any support, right? In fact, more people opposed changing that rule than moving forward with it. And reading between the lines, and we'll get to some comments later, I think it's a way of teaching novice hunters and incoming hunters to, if you can find a beard, then you can harvest that turkey, and that makes it simple, and the code is more clear. So, yeah, I think that was a interesting point. As far as the public comments, and all credit should be to our survey shop for helping me get through this, and to Michelle Bomber for helping me theme these out. They did an enormous amount of work to help me get ready for the regs committee meeting. So I hope they're listening and they're taking a victory lap, because this is their work, certainly. So the public comment, there was more support for the spring option 3, right, all day for all 3 weeks than for option 1, which was to maintain the current regulatory system. So if you will, the same top 2 results, flip the order. So again, it's not super clear. You know, the sort of the comments that we get, you know, it's hard for people to get out if they can't hunt in the morning. Of course, that's what we already knew. And then turkey, you know, the people in support of option 1 is concerned over the turkey population and how pressure might impact hunting quality and things like that. The bearded hen harvest question in the spring, in the public comment section was a lot closer to 50-50 as far as support for maintaining it or opposition to maintaining that exemption for bearded hens. And for the reasons I've already mentioned, right? It's easiest to identify a bird with a beard. Let's just keep it simple. And then the bottom one is it's actually not that hard to identify a bird that a male versus a female. So we don't need to make that exemption. So I think those are both, you know, certainly fair comments. Okay, so for the recommendation, I'm going to recommend that we extend shooting hours to all day for all 3 weeks on private land only. I think that'll give us the best option to move forward with expanding opportunity in kind of a responsible way, essentially. Public land would continue to close at 1 p.m. As far as my recommendation goes. That gives us, and we'll talk more about the pros and cons. And then I would also recommend that we continue to allow bearded hen harvest as it is now. I will, though, create some supplementary material. I know the information exists out there, and you know, an avid turkey hunter will tell you it's not that challenging to identify the sexes. Nevertheless, I want folks to have the information if they want it, to make the decision they want to make. I don't think that our bearded hen harvest in the spring is anywhere close to an issue as far as the population sustainability goes, but certainly there is a perception there that we shouldn't be shooting our hens in the spring. So if folks want to make that decision, I want them to have the information. Now, for the journey through the way my brain works, we'll talk through some of the pros and cons, right? So obviously the primary pro, as I see it, is that we're going to remove a barrier to participation, right? I don't know that we're going to emulate 2020 bumps, but I would sure like to try it. You know, the regs change, while on private land only, would still affect a huge majority of our hunters as far as, you know, Missouri's a private land state, and then 88% of our harvest is on private land. So we are still affecting a lot of folks. You know, this gives private landowners the option to make the decision that they want to make as well, right? If you don't want to hunt during the afternoon, then by all means, you're not, you know, certainly obligated to do so. Some of the comments were like, how am I going to go crappie fishing in the afternoon if turkey season runs all day? And I was like, well, go crappie fishing in the afternoon. I don't know. I'm not sure that I can tell you what to do. Those were interesting. And so there's, I think, a fair point that maybe my neighbor's going to go hunt in the afternoon, and that's going to disrupt my hunt. I think that's a reasonable concern. I think that's an opportunity to go have a conversation with your neighbor, right? Let's create turkey co-ops, much in the same way that we have deer co-ops. And while you're at it, maybe work out a way to put a fire line in that you both can use, something like that. You know, maybe generate some cooperation in that regard. If that's a side effect, then that'd be great. It shouldn't increase our multi-use conflicts on the land, right? So certainly everyone wants to be in the woods in the spring. That's me as well. By keeping the extension to shooting hours on private land only, we shouldn't see any additional conflicts. And the same goes with how we manage our public lands. If you write contracts that say the work can't start until 1 p.m. or you choose not to start the tractor until 1 p.m., then by all means, you know, keep doing that. This shouldn't change anything for you. Now, for the cons, certainly there's a perception this is going to negatively impact the turkey population. The information I have as far as harvest rates and information from other states in terms of what they've seen their population do after they made this change, I'm confident that this is not going to have a long-term impact on the turkey population in Missouri. I don't think the harvest increase is going to be very high, frankly, especially when we look at 2020. And we'll get into this in the next slide, so I'll go into more detail there. You know, I do think that this may be perceived as unfairly benefiting private landowners, right? If you don't have a place to hunt, then this doesn't help you much. But turkey hunting is one of those sports that requires mentorship, right? There's not that many of us out there that learned to hunt on your own. I did, but I had private land to work with. So maybe this encourages more people to be mentors, to reach out and get more folks out on their place. And while private and public is a clear distinction to those of us who hunt and look at onX like it's, our favorite application on our phone, I do think it does add a bit of complexity to the code. And so there will be a big effort to communicate that, should this be approved, to make sure folks are aware of what is private and public, and where to find those information if you're curious. Things that I would like to keep an eye on, factors to monitor, if you will. Will this increase shooting hours? Will this turn the tide on hunter recruitment, right? I don't know that I could say that. I don't know that we're gonna see 100,000 new turkey hunters over the next 10 years. I'm not sure that that's the case. But I would like to see, I'd like to see that decline slow or even stabilize. I think that would be a great outcome for this, and certainly I'll keep an eye on those R3 metrics. How much is it gonna increase harvest, right? So I probably should have put that first. That's maybe the more important one. Maybe as much as 10%, right? Which last year would have been about 4,500 additional turkeys harvested. I think that's probably the top end. In 2020, for example, when we saw that huge spike in participation, our harvest increased by about 7%. So I'd say 10% is kind of the top end of that. And again, the gobbler harvest rate is sustainable, and our jake harvest rate in particular is really low, likely less than 10%. So the jakes this year will be gobblers next year. We really don't harvest that many jakes. So I think we're still gonna have, like, if nothing else, the jakes are gonna be there. But I think our harvest rate, even with an additional 10% of harvest, will be comfortable and sustainable. I think the question that perhaps is most interesting to folks who actually hunt turkeys, and I know folks in this room have asked me about this, is how is this gonna impact our gobbling activity, which is a primary index of hunter satisfaction. And, certainly it's hard to know, right? I think it goes back to landowners can choose, right? If you're worried about hunting a bird in the afternoon, messing up your morning hunt, then by all means don't do so. Indiana saw about 80% of their harvest was before noon, so most of their hunters didn't change their behavior. I emailed the folks in Virginia and Ohio, because they are the states that most recently made this change, and Virginia had this data, and they said that 90% of their harvest was still before noon. So even more of their harvest, I don't know that turkey hunters are gonna just snap their fingers and change their behavior, essentially. Kind of the allure of turkey hunting in the spring is watching the woods come alive. I don't know that we change that just by allowing folks to get out who otherwise couldn't. Nevertheless, as we always do, we'll continue to monitor that hunter satisfaction, because it is an important component to the regulations process. All right, so onto the fall. Much like the spring, right, when we're thinking about ways that maybe we can, maximize our opportunity, but still be aware of the biological ramifications of anything. I wanted to look at Missouri as it relates to other states. Most are aware that states in our immediate vicinity, Kansas being one, and Alabama, close their fall season, right? So more and more states are eliminating a fall season with this notion that perhaps it's gonna have an impact on their population. I'm dubious of that. I've seen some of their data, and I'm not sure that I buy it necessarily. But certainly they all have their different objectives, and every state should make the decision that's best for them. But when you look at Missouri's fall season, bag limit of 4, that's pretty liberal relative to other states. Our season length is relatively long compared to other states. And we do allow hen harvest. That's pretty standard for states that do have a fall turkey season. But nevertheless, it certainly is there. But I think what sticks out to me is our bag limit seems a little bit out of step with some of our neighboring states. 4 is pretty liberal, essentially, relative to other states. So that's kind of what I focused on when I was thinking of ways to maybe to work to approach this recommendation with that in mind. Essentially, was to reduce bag limit, as I think that's a way to get it, to make a compromise, essentially. So option 1 would be to maintain the current regulations, bag limit of 4. Option 2 would be to reduce the total bag limit to 2 birds. Basically 2 portions of the same season with a bag limit of 2. Option 3 would be a bag limit of 2, but 1 per permit type. So archery hunters could harvest 1, and shotgun hunters can harvest 1. And then option 4 was to shorten the season to the month of October and to reduce the bag limit to 2. The survey data here were also, I think, a little on the cloudy side, though perhaps more were in favor of maintaining those current regulations than reducing the bag limit. Nevertheless, still pretty strong support for reducing the bag limit, and we'll get into the public comments later. If you break it out by the groups, I think the trend sort of stays. We see that folks are unlikely to support a big reduction in opportunity, which is fine and fair, but it's kind of similar across a lot of the groups. Now, when we opened it up to the comments, or looked at the comments and got the themes from that, option 3 was actually the primary one, which would have been a bag limit of 1 for the archery side and a bag limit of 1 for the shotgun side. Again, like kind of reading between the lines and looking through a lot of these comments myself, it seemed like folks that were in favor of option 3 saw that as the most conservative option. I think they saw it as a bag limit of 1. So I'm guessing that's what they were kind of, if you will, voting for. Option 2, a reduction of bag limit from 4 to 2 birds was the second most commonly cited option with the comments. However, many expressed an interest in closing the fall season altogether, right? And that's a comment I do hear from a fair number of folks. I don't believe that that's at all necessary. I think our fall harvest is very well within the realm of sustainable. I do not believe at the statewide level we're having an impact with our fall season at rates that we see now. However, I suppose at the local level, the 100-acre farm, if you harvest a couple hens, right, maybe that does have an impact on your population. So my recommendations are going to be to reduce the fall bag limit from 4 to 2 birds. Kind of the mechanics of that we'll sort of create or repurpose our shotgun permit and just call it a fall turkey permit. Consisting of 2 portions. So the archery portion it'd be the same kind of structure as it is now, but then have a bag limit of 2. What we will do as a function of that is remove the turkeys from the current archery permit. So archery hunters who want to continue to pursue turkeys with archery tackle will need to acquire a fall permit for turkeys if they want to continue to hunt turkeys in the fall with their bows. So again, the pros and cons. I think the primary pro here is that it does acknowledge some of the public's concern about our fall and hen harvest impact on the population. It's certainly something I hear a lot about from people. I try not to read comments, but that's a comment that comes up pretty regularly. Archery harvest since 2019 has been our primary method of take during the fall. So a majority of our turkeys are now harvested with archery equipment in the fall. But a lot of our turkey hunters see this as opportunistic take. I'm not sure I'm prepared to go that way all the way, though I do think that may exist to some extent. So requiring archery hunters to get a turkey permit may reduce some of that opportunistic take. Frankly, a bag limit of 2 is going to have very, very little impact to most of our turkey hunters. Of the turkeys that are harvested, 77% are done so by a hunter who only ever fills 1 tag during the fall. And maybe selfishly, this is going to allow me to better keep track of our participation in the fall, right? We saw that fall figure where that red line was going off the page. I don't know what that means for me, right? Do we have 150,000 turkey hunters, or is it closer to 12,000? So this, I think, will help me better monitor where things are headed. Some of the cons, of course, this is an elimination of opportunity, which I don't take lightly, especially because this is reducing opportunity for our very most avid turkey hunters, right? So those are people who certainly I want to keep in the fold, essentially. So that's not something I do lightly. It is going to increase turkey permit costs for those folks who are interested in continuing to pursue turkeys with archery equipment. And it's not really a con, but I think it's just a comment about how it's a little muddy, right? So our surveyed hunters were probably not super in favor of reduction of opportunity. The folks we see in the comments are very much in favor of reducing opportunities. So I think ultimately this is really just it's a compromise regulation, right? Where we try to minimize the reduction in opportunity as much as possible while still acknowledging some of the public angst over our fall harvest in the turkey woods. So that's what I got for that. Just to summarize, because I know I've been going on for a long time, the youth season would start April 7th or 6th and 7th. Bag limit of 1. Regular season would open April 15th and run through May 5th. Bag limit of 2. The change being that shooting hours would be from 1.5 hours before sunrise to 1 p.m. on public land and 1/2 hour before sunrise to sunset on private land. For the fall season, I would recommend that we institute or initiate the process so that we have one fall season with 2 portions, the archery and the firearms portion, and an overall bag limit of 2 for each of, an overall bag limit of 2 between those 2 portions. And so that's what I got. That's, happy to take some questions.
Any questions? Sure.
Mr. Chairman, Nick, that was a fabulous report. Thank you. A lot of information here. I've tried to soak up some of this. I even listened to your presentation of the last meeting, and all very informative. Just a couple of questions that have come to my mind. I'm a amateur turkey hunter myself. If some of the statistics and the assumptions don't work out or that don't become validated down the road, how easy is it to walk some of this back after 2 years? And will you be actively looking at all of this to see if these prove true?
Yeah, it's a great question, and you'll see me probably every year at this podium. So this is a process that we go through every year. So we're constantly reevaluating to at this point, we'll be more on the, is it sustainable from the population side? But yeah, I mean, it's something that we'll always, forever, right, in perpetuity, be aware of and keeping track of.
Good. This notion that afternoon hunting will facilitate school kids who can't do it in the morning, I haven't studied the impact of daylight saving time or whatever on the hunting seasons, but if a kid gets out of school at 3 p.m. and out in the field, and does he or she really have meaningful time to hunt? I mean, is that a real valid factor for increasing children's student participation?
Yeah, I don't know how many like additional hours after 3:30 the daylight save, with the time would be. It's a good question. I think the way I'll answer it is it's more than they would have currently, right? I was able to get home and bow hunt a lot as a kid, growing up after an hour-long bus ride. So, I think that opportunity certainly exists for those who are interested in pursuing it. I also think it gives a longer, so if you can take a day off here and there, I think it gives you more time during those days, right? So if you take your kid out and you need to take a day off of work, it kind of maximizes that return on that off day.
I agree. I think it'll inspire some creativity in kids to figure out ways to get out of school.
Right. Maybe we can.
Last question. Has all of this been considered, or my understanding is that all-day hunting has been considered previously, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, and with the population lower today, what is materially different, especially when some of the comments seem to be balanced in so many ways, 50-50 or slightly in favors?
Yeah, so speaking of some of the older, more seasoned biologists, it was always something that they were interested in pursuing. To your point about the fact that the population is lower now than it was then, you're not wrong, and maybe there's never a perfect time to do anything like this, but I'm real optimistic about the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I think we're headed the right direction, and so I think now's as good a time as any, which maybe not a scientifically backed answer, but I think that's how I feel about it. It's something that I think we as an agency have talked about for a very long time, and I'll speak for my fellow turkey biologists in saying that I think it's something that we've seen as an area of obvious opportunity to try and continue to grow the sport in our state.
Good. I applaud everything you've done. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I just had one comment, kind of follow up on Ray's, but on slide, I think it's 365, when you broke it up into different age groups and kind of going to Eric's presentation on the R3 program, I mean, the biggest hurdle for the people under 30, which is the group we're trying to target for recruitment, I mean, it was a huge spike and not time to go because of work conflict and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And I think that's something that is really a big consideration when we're looking at this.
Yeah.
Maybe just some comments and then a question. And Nick, you've been in front of us a lot talking about turkey, and it's been welcome, so thank you. I think we've been weighing a lot of the human factors as well as the biological dimensions on where we stand as a state and how we go forward. Now, it was in the background of your presentation, but huge credit to you and the team on all of your habitat work, specifically on our lands as well as our private lands. How quickly do you think we might see some of the results from all of that expanded work? And I know you've got a study in cooperation with MU, so how quickly will we see the benefit of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an acres question. How quickly can we get the acres on the ground? You know, turkeys are prepared to take advantage of a burn the day after the burn, right? So the habitat work that we do is something that, like, immediate response, right? Now, can we scale that up to a truly meaningful number of acres, right? That's the mission of the Turkey Habitat Strategic Initiative, which is now underway as well. So, yeah, as quickly as you can get that habitat on the ground, you know, we're going to see a response.
I'm just so optimistic for this expanded opportunity, and if you want to get me excited about youth hunting, it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
And so specifically on that front, very excited.
Good. Glad to hear.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate your presentation.
Of course. Yeah.
And Jason, you want to introduce the next speaker then?
Yeah, so Commissioners, Eric Kurzieski has requested time before you to comment on the turkey season recommendations. Eric?
Thank you, Jason. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director Pauly, MDC staff, pleasure to be here today. As Nick Oakley kind of alluded to, I'm representing not just myself, but Dr. Larry Van Gelder, Dr. Mike Hubbard, who had many, many years of leadership in the turkey program. And so the comments I'll make are comments that are shared by the three of us. I'll try not to be too redundant because, man, you hit all the bases really well, Nick. But one of the benefits that we had as biologists in the department was the mentorship of John Lewis. John was the architect of our turkey restoration program in the state of Missouri. He was the architect of our hunting seasons and hunting season structure. And John did not have the data Nick had to make decisions. He had to go on biological intuition, understanding the species well that he was dealing with, and he was very aggressive at liberalizing because he believed that opportunity built conservation support. He went from a 3-day season to a 2-week, 2-bird limit in 15 years, and on top of that, added a fall season in. He drilled into our heads that you work for the one Gallus turkey hunter. That's what he called the average person who had one Gallus strap broken on their overalls. They couldn't quite afford to get them fixed. And he said, that's the job you have here at the Department of Conservation, working for that average person out there on the landscape. And I think he drilled it into us well. The changes you're considering today, certainly Nick has pointed out, there's not a biological impact on the population that is anticipated. And unlike John, who was kind of going by the seat of his pants back in the day, Nick has all these other states that have implemented a lot of similar regulations where he can look at their data and what has happened. The social science also strongly supports time as a major limiting factor in people's participation in turkey hunting. And today I was hoping that there were going to be 2 people in the audience, a young man and his father. The young man caught the latest croup at school and has been home with a 100-degree temperature the last few days. So I'll tell you their story. Tucker Hayes, age 9, his father Todd Hayes. They live where they can turkey hunt out the back door of their house. But Tucker's parents decided he can have one morning during the 3-week season, during the weekday, where he can go before school. because they don't want him to be too tired out, getting up at 4:30 a.m., going out for a few hours, trying to get the logistics together, getting him to school. So he's got one morning aside from weekends that he can pick during the 3 weeks. His father, Todd, works at the Callaway Nuclear Plant. He goes to work at 6 a.m. He gets off at 4. That's another problem. Who takes Tucker? Mom's got 2 other kids to watch, and they want a turkey hunt too. So it's a large problem. But Todd gets off at 4. He can be home in the afternoon. There's probably, Commissioner Wagner, a good 3.5 hours of time, especially for somebody who can basically go right out the back door and hunt. So I think the regulation package you're considering today will strongly change the world for people like that. And the other group I want to mention is those that may not turkey hunt or have truly lapsed. And I'll pick on my own family here. I have a daughter in her early 30s, teaches math in the Kansas City Public School District at Garfield School, which is down in the inner city. She loved to turkey hunt. 10 years she's been teaching, hadn't turkey hunted once. No way she can pull that off before school. She said, Dad, if we can find a place around here in the afternoon, though, maybe I'd be able to go. And she'd like to go again. So I think there's a lot of folks out there that maybe didn't even show up in your surveys, Nick, because we talked to current turkey hunters. We didn't talk to maybe aspiring turkey hunters. The neat thing, too, is that as was pointed out from the questions, Nick will be able to monitor all this. We'll be able to see what the return on this investment is. But I do think that Larry, Mike, and I agree it would be substantive. We strongly support it. We applaud Nick, you and the team for bringing these things forward. You make us proud. Thank you. Any questions? Appreciate your time.
I just wanted to make one comment while you're up there, Eric, and I just wanted to thank you for your help on the Conservation Employees Benefit Plan as the retiree representative. And you know, taking your time out of retirement to help with that's very much appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's an honor to be able to serve again.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
Okay, Commissioners. Please note that if approved, the recommendations for the spring 2024 turkey season dates, including extension of shooting hours on private land, will be filed with the Secretary of State's office as an order of rulemaking and is not required to go through the proposed public comment process. The anticipated effective date for the order of rulemaking for 10-7.455 turkey season's methods limits is December 18th, 2023. If approved, recommendations for the spring 24 managed hunts and conservation area regulations will be incorporated by reference with the spring turkey hunting regulation booklet. Note there were no changes to managed hunts for this year. The 4 recommended changes to conservation area regulations include adding 2 new areas, removing 1 area where the lease has expired, and updating Bethlehem Wildlife Management Area to reflect statewide turkey seasons and limits apply. The remaining suite of recommendations to establish the 2024 fall turkey season portion dates create a single fall turkey hunting permit to be used across both the archery and firearms portions and reduce the fall bag limit from 4 birds to 2 birds will be submitted to the Secretary of State as a proposed amendment and open for public comment prior to consideration as a final order of rulemaking at your meeting in April. Mr. Chairman, I request commission approval for all turkey recommendations as presented by Mr. Oakley, as is detailed in my packet.
Commissioners, do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Commissioners, since the last Regulations Committee report, the majority of public comments received related to deer season. A summary of all comments received is included in my formal report. Unless you have questions, that concludes my Regulations report.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Jason.
Let's take a 5-minute break and then be back in about 5 minutes or so.
Everybody seated and get going again.
We're ahead of schedule.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Director Pauly. I'll be presenting the fiscal year 2024 financial summary report through October of 2023. The report has been provided in your advanced materials, and I will be going through the variances, and we'll start with revenues. So through October 2023, total revenues were 12.4% higher than fiscal year 23 through October, and 10.8% above expectations for this point in the fiscal year. Conservation sales tax was 10.6% above the same time period in fiscal year 23 and 10.4% above expectations. As of November, conservation sales tax revenues were 8.5% above fiscal year 23. Permit revenues were 7.5% higher in the first 4 months of 24 compared to 23 and 2.9% above expectations. The number of monetary hunting and fishing permits sold in the first 4 months of 24 were 70,402 higher than the previous year. Federal reimbursements were 15.8% higher than at this point in the last fiscal year and 8.5% above expectations. Made great strides in federal reimbursement claims from the previous year and are on track to achieve the budgeted revenues. Other revenue sources for the first 4 months of fiscal year 24 were 33.3% higher than this point in the last fiscal year and 52.2% above expectations. If there are any questions, I'll turn to expenditure variances. If I don't turn it off. There we go. Total operating expenditures for the first 4 months of fiscal year 24 were 15.3% higher than the first 4 months of fiscal year 23 and 1.5% above expectations. Operating expenditures include personal services, expenses, and equipment purchases. Personal service disbursements were 16.5% above the previous fiscal year and in line with expectations through October 2023. Expenses were 10% higher than at this point in the last fiscal year and 5.8% above expectations for the first 4 months of fiscal year 24. Equipment disbursements were 60.7% higher than the first 4 months of fiscal year 23 and 5.8% above expectations. The variance in expenditures from the previous year is mainly due to the increased cost of fleet and heavy equipment replacements. Total capital disbursements were 142.8% higher than the previous fiscal year and 17.7% above the budgeted amount at this point in the fiscal year. Capital expenditures include land conservation and partnership and construction. Large payments in October included the work for the Golden Anniversary Wetland Pump Station renovation at Fountain Grove Conservation Area, Bennett Spring Fish Hatchery renovations, and building renovations for the Lebanon Forestry Office. Total disbursements for the first 4 months of fiscal year 24 were 28.8% higher than the first 4 months of fiscal year 23 and 4.3% above expectations. This concludes my remarks on the fiscal year 24 financial summary through October. I'd just like to note that at your next commission meeting, we'll be talking about the mid-year review. Staff have put a lot of time in analyzing the current fiscal year needs, and so at that meeting, we'll be reporting the review. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman, so if I read what you said on equipment, that's pretty much rolling stock, trucks, equipment, tractors, things like that? Is that what I'm hearing?
Fleet and heavy equipment, so pickup trucks, any tractors, heavy equipment that are coming in, and we're getting higher than expected costs.
Right. So cost may be driving it more than volume or something like that?
Correct. That's exactly right.
And then capital is both infrastructure, construction, and land together, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, it's Jacob would be first. Jacob, I'm sorry. Things to do. Just because I'm in a hurry, you don't have to be. You're good.
Mr. Jeffries, I would welcome you to give my report.
No, thank you.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director Pauly. I'm here to share with you highlights of the major construction projects status report that's in your advanced materials. Since we last met, there's been a significant amount of construction activity, and I'm happy to share highlights of that. On the first page of your report, shown here on the screen, under Maintenance and Repairs category, on line 1 at the Conservation Commission headquarters, the IT building roof replacement project. As of the date of this report, the project was 75% complete. If you recall from previous comments, the project was on hold while we waited for an electrical panel to be delivered. There was a significant delay in that panel. Happy to report that that panel was delivered, and then we coordinated very closely with IT and got it installed. It did require us to temporarily transfer power of the server room over to the backup generator. So it ran on a backup generator successfully for a week while the contractor installed the new panel. Everything was transferred over earlier this week, and they're back up on power from the utility company. So that went very well. So now that that work is done, the contractor can finish that work at the project, and they should be done later this month. On line 5 at the Springfield Conservation Nature Center, the roof replacement project, that design is complete and it is in queue for the bidding process. On line 7 at Howell Island Conservation Area, I'm happy to report that notice to proceed was issued for that project on November 27th. Contractor is currently working through submittals and mobilizing on site. On line 8 at Bush Memorial Conservation Area, the regional office building exterior renovation project, the design is complete and it is also in queue for bidding. And then on line 12 and line 16 at Whetstone, there are 2 projects there that we bid in combination. They address some work that needed to be done on the dam for the impoundment. There is both some slope improvements and a spillway structure. During the month of September, as the contractor was drawing down the lake, they were doing some work there, and there was an event, a slide on the front face of the dam, which became unsafe for the contractor to do work below the dam. We halted the contract at that time, working with DNR Dam Safety Program and working with local staff and administration. We're currently evaluating our options for what to do to repair that slide, if we do repair it. Either way we go, it'll be a significant change to the scope of work. So due to that, we have terminated the contract for convenience. A contractor is very understanding. They understand it has nothing to do with their performance. And so we will work through a process internally in the department and then subsequently with Dam Safety Program to resolve the issue, and then we will have to reissue a new contract once we design whatever the solution is. Then on line 14 at Bob Brown Conservation Area, the wetland pump replacement project, the notice to proceed was issued on September 21st for that project. It is a materials-only project to replace 2 pumps. MDC staff will install the pumps once they're delivered, but it will take about a year for those pumps to be manufactured and delivered. It's a long lead time item. On line 17 at Montauk Fish Hatchery, the recirculation system control valve replacement project, that design is complete and it is in the queue for bidding. Line 18 at Shepherd of the Hills Fish Hatchery, the intermediate raceways replacement project, it is 10% complete. Contractor is making good progress. However, we did encounter unsuitable soils underneath the existing raceways when they were being demolished. So we're working through some adjustments to the scope of work so that we can stabilize those unsuitable soils. It may end up in a week or two extension of the contract so the contractor can do their work. But contractor's still confident with good weather that they'll be able to complete that work in May of 2024. On line 19 at the Lebanon Forestry Office, at the Rural Fire Equipment Building Renovation Project, as of the date of the report, it's 85% complete. Contractor is, at this time, wrapping up a few small items with the electrical, and we should be ready to grant substantial completion very soon. Then on line 21 at 10 Mile Pond Conservation Area, that design is complete, and the advertisement for bids will start this Sunday. Just important to note, though, because of the electrical equipment involved in that project, that we're anticipating a 6-month lead time for that electrical equipment, so it'll be around a 275 working day contract, just to make sure that the contractor has ample time to get those submittals and the electrical equipment delivered in time. On the second page of the report, on line 1 at Fountain Grove Conservation Area, contractor is making good progress on the wetland renovation for that pump, and they are now 60% complete. You'll recall that that was reported at 50% complete for some time, but the contractor is making good progress now. On line 5 at Shepherd of the Hills Fish Hatchery, the Conservation Center replacement, contractor is making excellent progress. They are 35% complete. And then same at Shell Osage Conservation Area for the pump station development. That contractor is also making excellent progress. They are 35% complete as of the date of this report. On line 8 at Columbia Bottom Conservation Area, the levee setback project, I'm happy to report that the Economy Act agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has been signed, and I am currently working through a disbursement request process with the Office of Administration to disperse the $15 million of ARPA funds directly to the Corps of Engineers. They will then, when they receive those funds, do all of the design, all of the bidding, and all the construction management on behalf of the department. So as soon as they get those funds just received from Office of Administration, they will be able to start that work. On line 10, 11, 12, and 13, the residence replacements at those hatcheries, those designs are complete and advertisement for bids has started. Those are scheduled so that we will open bids in time to bring a recommendation for award to the February commission meeting. And then line 17, Bennett Spring Fish Hatchery. The contractor is approximately 5% complete at this time. It is a very large and complicated project, so they are working through submittals. They have mobilized on site, but it is a challenging project for them, and we are doing everything we can to help them be successful as they mobilize on site and get work underway. Then on the last page of the report, the Infrastructure Asset Management dashboard. You'll note in the upper right-hand corner, the total assets change in value for Q1. You notice a significant decrease in the value of the portfolio, $15 million decrease. Part of that has to do with some of the infrastructure being demolished and the construction contracts I referred to earlier in my remarks. Some of it has to do with transfer of maintenance responsibility in some of our cooperative agreements with partners. So as those agreements were updated and maintenance responsibilities were transferred from MDC to the partner, those assets came off of the inventory. In the center section, you'll see the panel boards and load centers. Currently, there's 35% of those that are past expected life. If we were to do nothing in the next 5 years, that would increase to 42%. But projects like I just described at the IT building where we replaced that panel board, that was a project that would improve that metric. And then you'll notice on the gauges on the left, since the last commission report, some of those indicators have decreased in value. That is because we are currently going through a process where every 3 years we reassess the condition of assets, and so as that data comes in and we update the data set that we have, it adjusts those dials to indicate that over the last 3 years, some of those assets have decreased in condition. That concludes my remarks, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from the commissioners.
Commissioners have any questions?
Just one, on your Fountain Grove, now, that got assigned, is it Capital Paving, and do I remember that right?
That is correct. Lehman Construction Company was acquired by Capital Paving.
Okay.
So they acquired the contract earlier this calendar year. We
Okay.
worked through that process, and they are now staffing the project and executing the work.
60% complete,
Yes,
and the target is still for, is it May of 24?
May of 2024.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yes,
Thanks for getting that one back on track, Jacob. You're welcome.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Jacob, and appreciate all your work. This is probably one of the most important things in the department that we're all aware of, the infrastructure management.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Aaron? You can't catch up with Jason, I promise you.
No. Thank you, Commissioners. For your consideration, I have 4 action items related to realty. First, I'm seeking your approval for the acquisition of 135 acres as an addition to the Columbia Bottom Conservation Area in St. Louis County. The tract will be managed as Bottleman Forest and provide additional hunting and wildlife viewing opportunities.
Commission, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would
Oh.
just highlight from this specific property checks the boxes on it's adjacent to existing commission land. It's also in great proximity to one of our 2 high population areas. And when it comes to our thought process on acquiring land, this checks 2 big boxes.
It checks all the boxes, Commissioner.
Correction, it checks all the boxes, Deputy Director.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commission. Next, I'm seeking your approval for the acquisition of 160 acres in Dade County as an addition to the Suns Creek Conservation Area. The tract is immediately adjacent to Pennsylvania Prairie, which is owned by the Missouri Prairie Foundation. Pennsylvania Prairie was recently recognized as the most diverse area in the world, as they found 46 plant species in a 20-inch by 20-inch area. Pennsylvania Prairie itself has nearly 300 species, several species of conservation concern. Acquisition of this area will obviously provide great protection to that rare prairie remnant. The area in the future, if approved by the commission, would be planted to a diverse mix of native grasses, wildflowers, and sedges, and then managed for grassland wildlife.
Commission, could I have a
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Commission. Next, I am seeking your approval to dispose of 40 acres at the Thomasville Tower site in southern Shannon County through the competitive bid process.
Commission,
So moved.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commission. I know the Ozark region will greatly appreciate that. And last, I am seeking your approval to dispose of .4 acres of the Nottoway Valley Conservation Area in Holt County to accommodate the Missouri Department of Transportation in the construction of a new bridge on Route B. This will not impact any of the area management there at that important waterfowl area.
Commission, do I have a motion on this?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commission.
Okay. Next, Justine. And Justine, before you get started, I understand that you're going to do something different come January.
I am set to retire. My last working day will be January 31st. And so after 34 years with the department, I've had an outstanding group of people to work with, and so I'll miss you all. But I got one last commission meeting squeezed in with you, with some timber sale actions, and so I'm a pleasure to bring those for you.
Thank you so much for your service, Justine.
Thank you, Justine.
You're welcome. Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, Deputy Directors, Director, Commission. I'm excited to bring to you the 3 action items. I think they're items 11A, B, and C on your agenda. All of these are associated with the sale of forest products from our conservation areas. And so before I bring those specific action items, let me give you just a little bit of background, just a reminder as to how these come to be, how these come before you. So the department maintains an active forest management program on our conservation areas. Now, you only see the part where we come to you with recommendations or requests to sell forest products, but the sale of forest products is just one tool in our toolbox. Our management, or the management that's carried out in our conservation area, this include everything from thinning to use of controlled fire, tree planting. There's a whole suite of terrestrial management techniques that we use, but all of those tools are used and they're targeted to create healthy and diverse forest and woodland natural communities that provide a multitude of benefits for wildlife and for Missouri citizens. So forest management in general helps the department achieve its mission by enhancing terrestrial wildlife habitat, protecting water resources that support aquatic species and recreation, and by sustaining healthy, vigorous, growing forests that contribute to local economies through the sale of forest products, but also through things like tourism. So all of these actions contribute to the agency's success in achieving outcome 1.1, that Missouri has healthy land, water, and forests. So in keeping with established procedures, I've got 3 action items for your consideration. They're all associated with the sale of forest products. The first action item for your consideration is the sale of timber on Rocky Creek Conservation Area in Shannon County. This is item 11A on your agenda. So this sale is designed to improve the overall health of the forest system by addressing decline issues. The idea here is we're going to create a healthy forest that is viable and will be sustainable into the future. It'll increase the availability of oak and pine seedlings by increasing sunlight to the forest floor, and that'll also promote the regeneration of those species, but also native grasses and forbs. The idea here is we're going to create a diverse tree age and structure to attract and support an assortment of game and non-game wildlife species. And so I request approval to advertise and sell an estimated 885,986 board feet of timber located on 350 acres in compartment 13 of Rocky Creek Conservation Area in Shannon County.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And the second action item I have for your consideration is the sale of timber on Angeline Conservation Area, which is also located in Shannon County. This is item 11B on your agenda. The sale will realize the same benefits that the previous sale that I just described will realize. So I request approval to advertise and sell an estimated 1,009,765 board feet of timber located on 708 acres in compartment 20 on Angeline Conservation Area in Shannon County.
Commission, do I have a motion for
So
approval?
moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and then the last and final item I have for you is, for your consideration, is the sale of timber from Rocky Creek Conservation Area. Again, this is the second sale that we have for you on this area. This third action item is associated with sale of forest products from compartment 39 on Rocky Creek. It's item 11C on your agenda. And again, like the other 2 sales, this sale will realize the same benefits. So I request approval to advertise and sell an estimated 1,039,495 board feet of timber located on 659 acres of compartment 39 on Rocky Creek Conservation Area in Shannon County.
So moved.
Second.
I just want to make one quick comment. And, when I first came on the commission, and I always try to look at criticisms I hear of the department and then try to figure out if they're founded or not. And, one of the criticisms I had heard early on was how we were managing our forest. And I have not heard one complaint since I've been on the commission under your leadership.
Well,
And I can't thank you enough.
I got to give all the credit back to the regions. They have dived in and really hit the woods and have done the inventory, and they've done the hard work to bring the sales to your attention. And so I appreciate the comment. I'm glad we're moving forward and getting habitat work done, but again, I got to credit staff. They just are awesome.
I mean,
Thank you.
I've talked to forest product people, you know, and they're very positive in what we're doing, and it's been your leadership, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Okay, ready for a vote on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Justine,
Thanks
thank
again
you.
for your service, Justine, and.
Thank you, Justine.
When it's snowing and icing in February and you're looking outside, just know that I will not be on the road driving.
Okay, well, all the best in your next chapter, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Justine.
Up, wish everybody happy holidays, safe travels, and taking the time to come to the commission meeting, and we are adjourned.